Okay, so today we're taking a big jump into the houses, but what we've done up to now, we looked at the moon phases, we looked at the pattern types, which are your first general themes that you can begin to see. But then we looked at the signs of the zodiac, which really is the orbit of the Earth around the sun. And it's the amount of light that hits the Earth coming from the sun in different amounts every day as it goes around the year. So with the signs, we had the daylight increasing half and nighttime increasing half. The daylight is greater half, nighttime is greater half. So we were seeing how the halves were the halves of the year, the halves of the orbit of the Earth as it went around the sun. So each sign of the zodiac is essentially 1 month of the year. And it has a different amount of light and darkness, different energy, different understanding of each month. So when we're looking at the signs, we're measuring the light and the darkness and the attitude. The signs are the attitudes that we pick up. There's, like, you could think there's 12 basic attitudes or 360 degrees of different attitudes. And we all have a priority to certain attitudes. We all have a bias towards certain attitudes, which is our sun sign, our rising sign, and planet signs. These are all how attitudes come in and affect the sun, how they come in, they affect the planets or the moon or the angles. So the energy of the year, the signs of the zodiac, comes from above, from the orbit of the Earth and from the sun, and radiates down, and it affects and influences the sun, the planet, the angles, and it affects the other factors of the chart. And as you see each different meaning of each different planet or each different house, you're seeing how it's affected by the attitude of the sun sign. So it's not like the planet affects the sun sign. It's the sign that colors, that's the rays of the sun going out and affecting the planet. So you have to see this first. The light of the zodiac comes in from the heavens, it colors it, and it radiates down to the Earth, down to the planets, down to the moon, and we're affected by it. And so a Capricornian attitude is very different than a Leo attitude or a Cancer attitude, and each one is valid in its own season, in its own time. So this is the first layout. There's a lot of books in the States and in the West, and even in India, I think, where they make, maybe not so much India, where they make the signs. It's more of an American thing, where the signs are the same as the houses. Like Aries is like the first house is like Mars, and they throw everything together and it's the same meaning and they put it together. It works, but it's fuzzy and sloppy. It's like looking at a fuzzy image instead of a really clear, well-defined image. So it's not my approach, and I don't suggest you even try and apply it. So I'm going to try and explain why this is so. Well, you'll see it. But when we're coming to the houses, we're watching the sunlight coming to the Earth, same as we were doing with the signs. But when you were looking at the signs, you were watching the sun as it affected the Earth each day around the year. That's a very different thing. With the houses, we're watching the sun as it affects the Earth each minute of a day. So it's watching the rotation of the Earth in 24 hours and how the sunlight hits the Earth across 24 hours. So each sign of the zodiac is a month of the year, but each house of the horoscope, or each of the houses, are a 2-hour period of the year, of the day, a 2-hour period of the day. So there's a very big difference between a month and 2 hours. That same 2 hours will happen every day through each month. So it's just a very different focus. When we're looking at the sunlight hitting the Earth, we're not looking at attitudes. We're seeing how the light affects the circumstances on the Earth and on the planet. So the attitudes come from the signs. the circumstances and the anchoring into life and into the world is measured by the houses. So just as there was with the signs, there's going to be got to go through the daylight increasing, nighttime increasing, daylight is greater, night is greater, and the 4 quadrants of the day, or of any moment really. But when we were measuring attitudes of the signs, we were measuring freedom and responsibility, independence, and being independent, being the collective, the group, being part of a group, wanting to be independent, wanting to belong, being free, being responsible, and the different attitudes people have to freedom and responsibility. This is the beautiful thing of what the signs just unfold. You see the different attitudes to freedom and responsibility. So if you're a Capricorn parent with a Capricorn partner and you have a Gemini kid, your rules are not going to be valid. They may be valid, but they're going to be extreme and an imposition for the Gemini with a strong sense of freedom, who's always going to run around the rules. So just simple examples, but just these, in the signs, it's freedom versus responsibility, independence versus being part of the group. So this freedom, responsibility, polarity, and the attitudes to freedom and to responsibility and how they affect our life, that's the energy coming from the signs. And that we've pretty well finished. But now we're going into the houses. And when we're measuring the light and dark in the houses, we're measuring different factors across the day. So in our classes, we spend 2 weeks on the signs, 2 weeks on the houses, 2 weeks, probably 2 weeks, maybe 3 on the planets, and then 2 weeks on the aspects. And then we have our basic foundation pieces, the basic alphabet or pieces of astrology that allows us to begin to make sense out of it and put it together. Now, a lot of astrology is taught by the houses. You memorize the 12 houses, and everything that happens is added into the houses. The signs are added into the houses, the planets are added in the houses, and that's one way that it works. But the way I work is I make a very strong distinction between the measurements of the light and darkness of the year and the light and darkness of the day, and then learning each level of consciousness that each planet relates to and how it's thereby affected. So simply, a planet is the level, is your energy or your function. It picks up the attitude of the sign it's in. It throws its energy into the affairs of the house it's in, and it does it easy or difficultly according to the aspects made to it. That's the summation of this, of the foundations of astrology. But so it's one thing to know the grammar or the structure of it. It's another thing to make it meaningful, to see how alive it is, to make it work for you and observe it in people's lives. That's where it starts to come significantly alive. It becomes yours. So first we have to go over all the categories. Then we're going to, there's just you learn these things in layers. It's like music. You learn to make notes in music. Then you have to learn to put the intervals. Then you learn the scales. Then you got to do the repeating scales until it finally clicks in and you're familiar with it. So most of this is getting familiar with it. You're learning a grammar and a language. Once you know how it's connected language, you're free to say what you want to say or to draw your conclusions from it and then work with it. Okay. Okay, so we'll just get to this. One second, I gotta move this over a little bit here. Okay. First slide. Okay. So one of the things, when you look, this is just a picture of a chart. This is Signore Weaver. Okay. But this chart, what I wanted to point out on the chart is just the way things work. The signs of the zodiac, they always move counterclockwise. They rotate counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere. So they're going the opposite way of the clock. But when you're looking at the houses, on this chart, you see the signs marked in. You'll see the houses drawn across, and there's a shaded area beneath for below the horizon. But the ascendant, which is in Taurus, conjunct the moon, you'll see this blue line going counterclockwise. So the ascendant and the house cusps will move every day make a circle through the whole zodiac, but they'll move counterclockwise, same as the planets do. They'll move the counterclockwise. That's the blue circle. But as the ascendant and the Earth is moving that counterclockwise, the planets will be rising. They're in the sign they're in, so in the zodiac, the planets will move clockwise through the signs. But on a day, as the ascendant's moving counterclockwise, the planets will move the opposite way. They'll move clockwise. They'll move up and around the chart in a clockwise way. That's the red lines here. So both the signs of the zodiacal clock, the ascendant will move one way. As the Earth spins one way, the sky seems to move the other way. The planets are moving up the other way. Just a simple thing. It's an image I want you to have to be able to see. So this is a few drawings to clear it, to see it here. So at any moment, let me just back up for a minute. At any moment, the ascendant and the angles are all moving counterclockwise, and the planets are rising and setting and moving clockwise. So you can see this best with the sun. The sun. So the houses are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, almost in the same order as the signs. However, it's not the way they work. The sun is on the IC, the lowest point in the chart, at midnight, at true midnight. So for Toronto now, it would, at the time on the clock, midnight would not be, we're on daylight saving time, and we're 18 minutes off the time standard. So really, it's true midnight is at 1:18 in Toronto. But when it's midnight in Toronto, it's noon, it's sunrise somewhere else, it's noon somewhere else. It's all 24 hours at the same moment somewhere. But when we're looking from the place that we're at, the sun's at the lowest point at midnight. It's on the IC at true midnight, sundial midnight. Then the sun keeps, as the Earth is turning and the angles move counterclockwise, the sun starts rising from midnight. It starts to rise, and it gets to sunrise. At sunrise, when the sun's just coming on the horizon, it's on the ascendant. So sunrise is the sun on the ascendant. Then the sun continues to rise until it gets high in the sky, until at noon, it's as high in the sky as it can be. So if you're down south, if you're in the equator, fairly warm, the sun will come right overhead. But if you're north in the temperate zones, the sun will be a little bit to the south. It won't come exactly overhead, but it'll still get as high as it gets in a day. So the sun comes up to the highest point it can get to in a day, and that's at noon. So then after that, the sun starts getting lower in the sky, lower in the sky, lower in the sky, until it gets to sunset, till it sets at sunset. Then when it's on the sunset, it's conjunct the descendant. So someone born at sunset will have the sun conjunct the descendant. Then it will continue going down below the horizon. It's nighttime. When it's below the horizon, it gets nighttime, goes down, 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 till it gets to the next midnight. So that's how you see the houses are interpreted. Essentially, one level of interpretation is seeing the sun cycle and how it fits to the time of day. So by seeing this, I think I have it on that.